Hey guys, it's the Tominator, and with this year's Arnold Classic just a couple days away, yeah, it's probably time to start making some predictions. Better late than never, right? Okay, so just as a formality, here's the official lineup. I'm sure most of you have heard by now and already know who's competing and who isn't. So in 10th place, I've got Akeem Williams. Even though Akeem just took ninth at the Olympia, which is usually a harder show, you could argue that this Arnold Classic is an even deeper lineup. Akeem also brought some of his best conditioning to date there, so unless he manages to duplicate that or bring an even better package, I could easily see him slipping a spot or two. He's got insane mass and proportions and an absolutely wicked front double biceps, but until he figures out a way to thin out that skin, he just doesn't have the sharp detail to make these top callouts on the biggest stages. And that guy right behind him there, I don't see him cracking the top 10, unfortunately. Don't get me wrong, I love me some Victor Martinez. He's probably one of my top 10 all time favorite bodybuilders, and he still looks phenomenal on his own, in progress pics and such. But we gotta remember that his prime was well over 10 years ago, and he only took 10th place in last year's Arnold Classic, which was considerably weaker than this year's turnout. So I'm afraid if we're being objective, the odds just aren't in Victor's favor at the moment. Lionel Bayeki is another dark horse who could certainly find his way into the top 10 if he comes in good condition. And that's a big if when we're talking about Lionel, who has that same thick ass, elephant like skin as Akeem, but who hasn't competed in over a year and might be all the more rusty for it. Look, if Lionel ever manages to get it together and live up to his potential, he'd be right there in that first call out. But based on past performances, I don't expect him to do so. He's like an even more disappointing version of Cedric in that way. It's not that I don't want Bayeki to do well, because I do. His is one of the most aesthetic physiques out there today. It's just kind of painful to root for this guy, so I'm not expecting much. I'd rather be pleasantly surprised than let down again. So let's hope he proves me wrong. Alright, but let's slot Josh LENARTOWICZ in at number 9. Coming off that major surgery, I believe it was actually brain surgery. I haven't been following all the details, but in any case, it was a serious, serious operation. I just don't see this guy being anywhere near his personal best. Last year, he came in absolutely big as a house and even made Rolly look small in a couple shots, but his conditioning was a tad off. This year, I doubt he'll be as big, and unless he manages to somehow nail his conditioning despite a shortened prep period, I don't expect too much from the massive Aussie. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he dropped to 10th or 11th under the circumstances, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for now. Okay, at number 8, I'm gonna go with Sergio Oliva Jr. I'm not buying into the hype, guys. And this isn't anything personal. I always see his comments on Instagram addressing all the supposed haters and naysayers and saying how he's gonna prove us wrong. Well, I mean, cool, dude, do what you gotta do, but this isn't hating. I'm just trying to be realistic, and the fact of the matter is that this is a competition, right? It's a zero sum game where not everyone can win. And based on what I've seen so far, I just don't think it's his time yet. Because here's the deal, Sergio's physique leading up into the show looks incredible. There's no denying that. His conditioning seems to be on point, and he could very well bring us his best version to date. But he's simply not big enough yet. He lacks density, and it's going to show when he's standing on stage next to some of these mass monsters. I'd put Sergio in the same category as a Rafael Brandao in the sense that here's this younger, aesthetic looking bodybuilder with a whole lot of promise. He just needs more time to really fill out his frame and bring up the mass and the muscle maturity in order to be competitive at the highest levels. That's not to say he couldn't place higher. If some of the big names missed the mark, Sergio could easily move up. There's even a possibility he could crack the top 6, but I'm not counting on it. At number 7, I've got Nathan to ASHA. A lot of people seem to be writing him off already because he was somewhat of a last minute addition to replace Rolly Winkler, and therefore didn't have the benefit of a full prep period either. But I think given Nathan's track record, he deserves a little more faith than he's getting. Do I think this will be the best ASHA we've ever seen and that he'll be able to challenge for the title? Hell no. But he should be good enough to challenge for top 6, and that's why I've got him just outside knocking on that door. At number 6, though, let's go with Patrick Moore. Here's another guy with a ton of hype behind him, coming off the momentum of an auspicious Olympia debut. Patrick is perhaps the perfect representation of what the Arnold Classic strives to be all about. We're talking aesthetic proportions, flowing lines, a tall and imposing frame with a tight waistline. To me, he's like the new Cedric. But as with Sergio, his physique is still a work in progress, and he needs a lot more thickness to stand next to some of these real heavy hitters. For that reason, top 6 is perhaps even a bit optimistic, especially considering that he doesn't have much of a competitive history to go by, so we don't really know what he's like yet in terms of consistency. But assuming he comes in similar shape as the Olympia, or hopefully even slightly better, Patrick should be right there in the mix. Number 5 for me is Steve KUCLO, another guy who's sort of getting slept on. People may not like his physique, and it's true he's got some glaring weak points, like his back and his generally poor separation, but in terms of pure mass and conditioning, Steve can stand toe to toe with the best of them. He's got that hard, grainy, vascular muscularity a la Branch Warren, which the judges really seem to favor. Plus, his trajectory over the past couple years has been steadily improving from show to show, taking 6th last year at this event and top 5 at the 2019 Olympia, so I think it would be foolish to count out KUCLO at this point. In 4th place, I gotta go with the 2017 champ, Cedric McMillan. He took 4th last year too, and I believe 3rd the year before. So, for whatever reason, Cedric always seems to show up better here than at the Olympia. However, at age 42, I feel like Cedric's best days are behind him. People keep talking about, oh, if only Cedric could nail his conditioning, he'd win any show he entered, as if it's a foregone conclusion. At this point, I'm honestly not sure if that's even true anymore. Could a 100% Cedric beat a 100% William Bonac, for example? Maybe, but how about a 100% Big Ramy? That I wouldn't bet on. But it's probably a moot point anyway. I think the best we can expect from Cedric at this stage is about 90%, which would almost certainly be good enough for top 3, but I doubt it would be enough to win. And with the recent resurgence of this next old-timer, I'm not confident Cedric has the drive or ability to take out Dexter Jackson, my 3rd place prediction. What more can we say about Dexter that hasn't been said already? The man's a legend. He's like the Energizer Bunny. He just keeps going and going. Although apparently 2020 will be the year that the blade is finally sheathed for good, as I believe Dexter mentioned on social media that he'll be retiring at the end of this year. Anyway, assuming that this electric torture device does its thing and Dexter's able to shock some new life into those legs like he did between 2018 and 2019, he should be well on track for a top 3 finish here. We already know his conditioning will be great. We already know his back, arms, and shoulders will be amongst the best in the show. The real question marks when it comes to Dexter these days are the legs and the midsection. If he's able to keep that waist in check and those abs defined, and if the quads have some decent fullness and separation, he'll continue to be extremely dangerous. And that brings us to the top 2, and we might as well just discuss these guys together since everybody knows who we're talking about anyway. William Bonac and Big Ramy. Who do you go with? Okay, so the way I'd sum it up is this. If you're a betting man, you'd probably have to put your money on Bonac. He's got the better track record. He's proven himself to be way more reliable at peaking for a contest, and he's probably even more complete and balanced than Ramy when we factor in the calves and the deep separation that he brings. He also won here before, just 2 years ago, and took a close second to Brandon Curry last year, so Bonac is the safe choice. But screw the safe choice, man. Go big or go home, I say. And so I gotta side with Big Ramy on this one. Look, Ramy has all the tools, all the genetics, all the mass at his disposal to absolutely wipe the floor with these guys. So just like Cedric, the only question is the conditioning. Assuming that Ramy is at least, say, 90%, I think he can beat everyone here, including even a 100% William Bonac. After all, that's basically what happened at the 2017 Mr. Olympia, where Ramy took 2nd and William was 3rd. Plus, the bodybuilding fan in me wants Ramy to win. It would honestly be the best thing for the sport right now. Sure, it'd be cool to see Cedric or Patrick or Sergio pull it off, but realistically, I don't think there's much chance of that happening, considering one of those guys is on the decline and the other 2 are just getting started. But at 35 years of age, Big Ramy is smack dab in the middle of his prime, and therefore represents a legitimate contender. And in the wake of a thoroughly mediocre Olympia competition, Big Ramy finally coming into his own is just what the doctor ordered. We need a serious threat to the throne. We need to shake things up. And if Rami captures this Arnold Classic title, on his very first attempt, mind you, he'll gain a ton of momentum and confidence and become the automatic #1 challenger for the Sandow. I've noticed a lot of people are picking Big Rami to win it all here on account of his death face from one of his recent workout videos. Well, I'd just like to point out that Rolly Winkler was also rocking a death face at the 2019 Olympia press conference. I believe it was Milo Sarchev who said in an RX Muscle vid that Rolly was one of the main guys to watch out for because of that. And yet he still managed to step on stage looking off and holding water. So I don't put too much stock in the death face anymore. Phil Heath won 7 Olympias in a row, and I can't recall ever seeing him with a death face. In fact, his face usually looked puffy and even kind of fat, despite him being shredded everywhere else. So yeah, I would caution people not to read too much into that. Now, I hope that Rami's sunken cheeks would indicate he'll be absolutely peeled out of his mind like we've never seen before, but I don't think we should be getting ahead of ourselves too much just yet. I'm still going to be cautiously optimistic and project Big Rami in first and William Bonac in second, but we'll just have to wait and see how it all unfolds. Oh, and as for classic physique, it's Steve Laureus by a mile. I'd actually be shocked if this guy didn't win, considering how hard he pushed George Peterson last year, and based on the significant improvements he was able to make in the past year and a half or so. If even 50% of these gains hold up on stage, he should have this thing in the bag. So that's all for this one, guys. What do you think? Who's in your top 10, and who do you see winning it all? At least at this point, we don't have to wait long to find out, and I'm excited for this Arnold. With a lineup this strong, it feels like the Olympia 2.0. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and remember to subscribe for detailed contest coverage and all the rest. But until then, this is the Tominator signing off, and I'll be back.